All right, welcome back to the Prospecting Show. Today is June 17th. It's Wednesday, 1:09 p.m. Eastern, and we have Jordan and Shamauri on the call. How are you?
Very well, Doc. Excited to be here.
Awesome. Thank you for taking some time out of your day. I know you both are super busy, trying to change the world, change what you're doing with your life, and I appreciate you taking that time out of your day because I know how valuable it can be. So to kind of start things off, I know we talked on our last take of this episode here about Jordan kind of making a little bit of an intro as to where he came from and kind of where he's at now. And then this introduction story with Shamauri as well to kind of figure out like how you two met and where things are at right now.
Oh man, awesome. I can't wait to dissect how we met. But before we get there, well, hey everybody, Jordan Amos Ellis. I'm currently 32 years old. From Chicago, Illinois originally. I'm out here right now. Went to University of Maryland in College Park when I moved to Maryland in the late 90s. And I was a quantitative research major for African American studies within public policy. And out after school, I had a side venture where I pursued personal training because I had a sort of an athletic background in school. I worked at the rec facility all years I was there. And I was a part of the club basketball team, and that was for about 2 years. When I actually was a part of the original program that's now flourished into something that's pretty major right now. So all the Big Ten schools out there represent, man. But that was about almost a little over a decade ago. For the past 8 years, I've been in the fitness industry. I spent about 3 years competing in bodybuilding, physique, and classic. And but also that's where I met my personal coach and guru in the industry, Omar Powell. And when I first met him, he was the trainer, like in the Bethesda, Chevy Chase, Maryland area. If you all familiar with the East Coast or the DMV area. That's like the Washington Sports Club. That was probably the most prestigious, gym facility in the area. And I was starting off as a young buck, making like $6,000 an hour just teaching group classes. And Omar Powell, this man right here, husband, father of four. His oldest son's playing varsity basketball in Bethesda Chevy Chase High School. Oldest daughter's in her sophomore year of college in New York or fashion. Has a 6-year-old son and a 2-year-old son and 2 dogs. And he has an amazing wife, Samaya. She's from the Caribbean. Was a sous chef for about 20 years, and she recently retired due to what they were able to learn and create outside of what Omar did full time. And then when I met him, I was at a crossroads because I was good in providing my service guys, but I didn't know what was holding me back. And this is when Omar kind of like mentioned to me that everybody, may know how to provide a service, but people don't know how business systems work. And that intrigued me. And it really just talked about being able to have my efforts duplicate to this day where, with training programs or online coaching, things of that nature. And that's just one business venture, but you're able to duplicate your efforts and you can not max out all your time because when you're self-employed, you can trade a lot of time for money. There's nothing wrong with that, but then, there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that has to happen, like the accounting, the financing, just all the business sides of things. Like you got to know what taxes are. You got to know what taxes are coming. Like you got to know this stuff. And starting out, I didn't. And to this day, fast forward, in the process of becoming fully debt free within the next 6 weeks, I'll be pursuing my master's in legal services to specialize in taxation and business law. Because it means so much to me because there's such a rise of entrepreneurs, such a rise of up and coming business owners in this world, across the world. And that awareness, that early awareness can prevent skepticism so people can actually walk their path. They can be proud of their path and they can embellish their present and they're going to impact more people in the future. And that's kind of where, my trajectory went. I followed Omar's footsteps till to this day. About 3 years ago, met him 8 years ago, and honestly, Omar is a big reason why me and my soon-to-be fiance Shamauri met a little over 2 years ago. Like he actually played a very big role in that. It's not the biggest role, but just currently at this time right now, like one of my fitness business, Unapologetic Athletics Incorporated, is able to basically be monetized to the point where you can have, that household family fitness, like camaraderie, like in the house, because that means a lot. Like holistic health for every single household is very big. People don't really realize that until after the age of like 7 or 8. You know, you like if you want to talk about holistic development and growth, you know, the impact that we want to have for the future is basically the unity within the household. You know, because when it all comes from the same source, the mother, the father, the kids, they can have something healthy that they can interact with together. It brings them together, especially during these summer times right now. You know, where things could like violence and crime can go high, especially here in Chicago. They can have something positive, progressive, and productive to look forward to. You know, but you know, and that's what you can provide to the people. But as an entrepreneur team, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, like there's like the logistics behind it all. So like you want to be able to practice business safe, legal, ethical, and moral. You know, and that's what we're about. That's what I learned from Omar. You know, he empowered me like through this mentorship-based leadership training program that prepared me, not just financially, but personally, professionally, spiritually, holistically, really, in every endeavor in life. So if I needed to, you know, get a promotion or even get an interview, I have the skill sets that are invaluable. You know, learning how to work with people, build people up. You know, the personal leadership. Those things matter in the business world. Those things matter in life. Those things matter at home. You know, so and it's because I took that path with Omar. He put me on a new platform where the message that my family has instilled within me my entire life can be heard across the world. And in the crossroads of doing that, it was about 2 years ago. One of my good friends, future Dr. Andrew Brown, who's going into his residency at Virginia Tech Medical School right now, about 2 years ago, he told me that there was this young lady that he connected with on social media that had a similar background to me, and I was just like, I need to talk to her. And then, and that what I thought would be maybe a 5 or 10 minute conversation, Dr. Connor turned into a 45-minute conversation, you know, out the gate. Without even seeing the face to face, and I'm talking about my better half, Shamauri Phillips, soon to be Ellis. You know, she lives in Pittsburgh. I was in the D.C. area, so we didn't actually physically meet until like the end of May, around Memorial Day. Because it was the week before my 30th birthday, so I'll never forget this. I'll never forget every interaction with her, by the way. But that's kind of where we're at right now. We're moving forward with a lifestyle where time and money just didn't like matter. How would you live and how would you give? And we feel that the abundance is how we want to leave our legacy behind, because that's what our parents brought us here for. And we're having a blast. You know, I know we talked about the educational system, DYS, determine your success. That's all powered through, you know, like what I consider my business, DBA, doing business as Onward Unified, which is another business vehicle. That right there is the mentorship-based leadership training program where you can empower people through educational resources. It's optional subscription, so no one's locked into anything long-term, and no one's without knowing where their money is going, because the point of the educational thing is not just about leadership and mindset, but understanding, investing, and financing operating activities that can create free cash flow, that can help people depreciate their liabilities so they can pay off their debt, and appreciate their assets so they can basically have more options in life. And it's because of that is why I'll be debt free in 6 weeks, and my soon-to-be fiance a few months sure after that. And when we take that next step, you know, our children, this is what we see for the future, Doc. Our children will never know a working mom and a dad in a traditional sense, but more in the new age sense, where it's just like we're busy because we're helping more people, but they're a part of it. So they don't feel like they're, you know, at bay what we're doing. We don't, because we're not investing into daycare and things of that nature. You know, we're going to be there for every single moment, every single minute. You know, because like those first bike rides, those basketball practices, and those are the things that I didn't really have growing up with my father. My father recently passed away from stomach cancer 5 weeks ago. You know, so those things matter. Family matters. Finance is important, but freedom is too. But faith above all. And that's kind of, you know, where our story is at right now until we transform into the win. But I know my better half can take it away from here. If I took too much time, I apologize. But I just want to thank you guys for the opportunity to speak.
Absolutely. Shamauri, let's hear it.
Wow, I mean, I love hearing Jordan talk. I mean, it's so passionate. And the fact that, even though we're in separate areas of the U.S. right now, it's just like both of our visions are in line and are in tune. I mean, myself, I grew up in Pittsburgh, still living here. I have a background in physical activity and fitness management from the University of Slippery Rock in Pennsylvania, and graduated there about December 2016. So it was about like a semester over than what I had wanted to. Trust me, no one wants to stay there longer than they have to. But from there, kind of struggled getting to, the job or a so-called dream job that I had envisioned for myself after graduating, and found myself in the commercial gym setting, just trying that area out. Being, that was always like something that I wanted to try and see if I can, see myself managing a gym or to that nature, directing in a gym, and from there, I guess, the regular thing, like, you go to school, get a good job, and, sometimes you go to school, for your master's or doctorate or whatnot. So I was just following in those traditional footsteps. So after, probably about a semester or two after graduating, I reapplied into California University of Pennsylvania's online master's program in exercise science and health promotion, just, adding on to my already fitness background. So, and I played basketball all throughout high school and recreationally at Slippery Rock. And so, I had that athletic background, always had that that caring, giving background that a lot of health professionals have. And, I knew that, it was something that was going to help me go to where I wanted to be at. So like, I always wanted to give back to the community, to the youth of the community. And, I grew up with a lot of younger cousins, younger siblings, and just, seeing the everyday, everyday routines of kids, maybe not having the quality foods that they need or quality amount of activity that they need in their lives. So I wanted to open up a nonprofit program to enable that, to give those kids an empowering sense that, you don't just have to, do or say what your parents say, you know what I mean? But also giving them that power, like, hey, Mom, I know that this apple is better than this bag of chips or something like that. And so, I found myself in school, studying for my master's, working full time. And, as Jordan said, Andrew and I had connected on social media, and he told me about Jordan, and he told me about Omar. And I was like, in my mind, like, man, I always thought that I needed someone who's like, years and experience in the health and fitness industry to kind of like guide me into where I wanted to go. So like when he told me about Jordan and he told me about Omar, I was like, absolutely, it just automatically clicked. It's like a godsend. And, just being able to be connected with Jordan and with all of his passion and his vision for what the future holds, not just for his family, but for the community. It sparks something, not with our relationship, but also on a professional level as well. But yeah, I mean, that all leads to, what we're trying to do as far as enhancing our family's legacy. So, being able to be those builders in the community and those builders in the family, having that youth community center where we can both help young athletic athletes, enhance their athletic skill and also enhance their leadership skill, because athletes and leadership go hand in hand. That's the best combination that you can have, because a lot of younger kids look at these professional athletes in like a hero mentor type way. So being able to actually utilize how people see you on a public scale and just emphasize that even more with leadership development and leadership skills to be able to have that positive impact on the community for generations to come. That's all what it's about. So hopefully it wasn't too long.
Yeah, no, I think those are all really important points, right? At the end of the day, there's people who have a certain level of education. You don't know what you don't know, right? There's people who are always trying to continuously improve themselves, change how they do things, why they do things, where they do things, and who they do those things with, right? And so the closer you get to the sun, the more relationships you develop, the more people you get towards, and the more educated you are, the better you end up being. So in both of your mind, and it doesn't really matter who goes first, but in both your minds, what do you think the most important piece of education is? If there's one focus or topic, where do you find most people are focusing, or where do you recommend they focus in education going forward?
That is a great question, because I mean, if we're talking about like, I guess, business, then I would say either like understand economics and finance all day, you know, like sales, marketing, accounting, that's the language of business. So you definitely want to go that route. But in life, man, I would say like leadership. You know, like I would take leadership courses for sure.
So what about people? I mean, not every single person can be a leader, right? There has to be some right? There has to be some people who are willing to implement and execute and operations and all these other pieces. So how does somebody figure out that they would be a good fit for leadership?
So it's so funny, because I was literally just watching Justice League, and there was a point in the movie where Robin said that he couldn't do it, and Batman said, "Save one." And he said, "Then what?" He said, "Then you'll know." So you got to really kind of test the water to see if it is for you. But I haven't came across a person who could, like, you know, like refute, you know, personal development of themselves. Like, because when they hear it that way, they realize how that wouldn't make sense, type of thing, you know. So like, to develop themselves to be the best version of themselves would always be the right answer. But but people are going to make the decisions based on their social circles, and when people are able to change their circles for the better, like more self-motivated people in those circles, then eventually they'll become more self-motivated. So it all depends on the association too.
I agree. And even just adding on that, like, even if someone doesn't see themselves in like a leadership role or a leadership title, like there's an amazing book by Mark Sanborn called you don't need a leader to be, or you don't need a title to be a leader. And, you know, he just emphasizes that you don't have to have like a director or CEO or manager title to be able to have a positive impact on other people. Like, even if you don't see yourself in that role, just still spreading a positive mental attitude, still, you know, holding high moral and ethical standards. That all adds to being not only a good person, a good citizen, but eventually, you know, over time with consistency, a good leader in your own right.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely true. There's a difference between leaders and leadership, right? There's definitely a difference between the two. There are people who are leaders, and there are people who have leadership-based skills, right? It's like there are entrepreneurs, and then there are entrepreneurial tendencies, right? Working 18 hours a day, that's entrepreneurial tendency. That's not necessarily an entrepreneur, right? If you don't own your own business, and that's not really an entrepreneur, right?
I agree.
But the tendencies are there, right? Just like the tendency to wake up early, go to bed late, do a million things, work from your computer, order pizza, whatever it is, right? Working around the clock. That's an entrepreneurial tendency. So just like leadership, there's people who have leadership skills, and there are leaders. In both of your minds, where do you think people need to focus going forward? I know we talked about education and leadership, and that's where in the education world, but what do you see success looking like in the future for the younger generations?
I mean, like physically, like what I visualize for the next generation of these new leaders of the free world, you know, is actually them reading more books, pretty much. It's really like even that, right? Because they always say that leaders are readers, you know. So if you're a reader, then you're already showing leadership tendencies, leadership potential. You know, like it's really that simple. I think that the more a person like is motivated to further educate themselves by any and all means, studying audio, studying visuals, like reading, building those habits, you know, that has to be desired. But once a person acquires it, it's only then they realize how valuable it was and they should have been applying it as soon as they got whiff of it, if that makes sense. But I think actually just reading more books will just create a behavioral trend. I was a behavioral social science major at Maryland, and that will create a behavioral trend, and honestly, it should create more like-mindedness. People can connect on deeper thought processes, and the conversations go from small talk to big talk, like they say on those TED Talks, right?
Yeah, well, let's talk about that for a second then. So, books. What are your recommendations?
Oh man, sweetie,
Top three.
I got 30. I got 30 for you.
Top three.
Top three.
I would say my top three is The Greatest Miracle in the World by Og Mandino. I mean, it's not a self-help book, but it definitely, you know, makes you reflect on, you know, how you view other people and how you view what you do. So Greatest Miracle in the World by Og Mandino. The Magic of Thinking Big. I mean, that's just, you know, a whole mindset changer right there in itself. And the third book, I would say, I'm gonna go with Psycho-Cybernetics. It's an older book, but it's, you know, it's a great another great insight to your mindset and the way that you view yourself and the way that you view other things. Because at the end of the day, the way that the world is heading, like for success with any generation and even the younger generation, it's all about how they view the world and how they view what they can accomplish. So if you start with the inside, start internally, then you can intrinsically transcend your external circumstances.
That's a fact, sweetie. Great job.
Yeah, I mean, that makes tons of sense. So let's talk a little bit about education beyond like these formal educations, right? So there's a lot of people who read books, watch videos, go to courses, do all that, but then they actually never translate that knowledge to the next person. So how do people effectively translate the knowledge that they've learned through books and their education and whatever it is over to their customers or the people they're coaching or any of that? How do they take that next step and translate the knowledge?
Oh man, that's a great question right there. I would say for me personally, it was guidance. You know, like guided action. Like someone who like saw more before but isn't like better. They just like you don't want to like to say tax laws and minefield. You know what I'm saying? So like things like that. So you like if there's someone that actually has already crossed the minefield, you want to follow that person because they already know what the booby traps are. So it's just like a person just learns from someone. You know, that's where that they call that the power of the other person. You know, where it's because there is that person out there that will make sure that someone else's life is all right, and that's the person you learn from. It's a very thin thread of faith. You know, it's a very thin thread that you connect with someone that can guide you and knows what you've been through and knows how to get you to where you're going. Like it's as pure as that. So essentially, just seeing the actual example, the person would have to see it happen because it's caught, not taught, essentially. But you're teaching yourself, so like you're even more aware when you catch it, and you'll catch it every single time as opposed to every now and then. So that's why reading's so important, taking notes, because a short pencil is better than a long memory. You know, so it's all about how a person develops their personal habits, and they can see that from the people around them. And honestly, the example is always going to lead the way.
Yeah, you know what? That's one way to look at it. What do you think is what do you really think the next step is in learning for most people? So like we talked about some of this professional development, reading, some, you know, translating knowledge, but what is the thing that actually gets people to execute, right? Because it's one thing to learn. There's a lot of people who read books, self-help, professional development, whatever it is, and never actually implement. Right? So how do you do that?
Correct.
What's the next step?
Correct.
How do they implement?
I mean, I think it all stems from, you know, just what is really motivating them on a daily basis, you know, like what goal are they trying to accomplish? And if they keep that that goal, if they keep that why in front of them, like even if they put it on their mirror, or they open it up as somewhere on their dresser or something like that, like if they remember, like, okay, I'm trying to pay off this credit card, or okay, I'm trying to buy this house, and they look at that every day, their mind, us as human beings, we have this drive inside us that doesn't want us to lose, and it wants us to win, and it wants us to succeed and hit our goals because it makes us feel good. That there's plenty of studies on that. And so when you keep that in front of you and you look at it every day, you're going to want to try to do something every day to make sure that you're hitting that goal in the end.
Very interesting. Let's talk about goal setting then real quick. It's kind of like the last topic here, and then we can wrap it up. Let's work backwards. So how do people set goals? What do you think makes successful goals? There's a lot of people that talk about, setting SMART goals, and that's kind of cliche and all that.
Yeah.
How do you set goals, and how do you actually structure them so you hit them?
Oh man, perfect question, Doc. I mean, the physical thing that I do is literally like write things down. I've tested basically when I don't track things down, and then when I do, and that can save people so many errors. That can save people so much money. And what I mean by that is that, like, for example, like writing down your expenses every single day, just building that habit. I picked that up on a YouTube video. Like, I've seen so many YouTube. I don't even know. It was like 3 years ago when I saw this. Even it's like $1.69. Just write it down. So when you can check your account in the morning, and then you can basically cross-check to see your finances are squared, checks and balances. Because sometimes you may get hit with a charge, or you may get those nickel and dimes. Those things add up, and then the person, is in dire straits. They don't know where their cash flow is. So like even just a small habit of writing down can help someone financially. But writing things down allows you to really take in what you've learned from like a audio or visual, or anything that you're learning from. Just taking notes in general is just like it's the thing that completes the thought that's going into the brain. So people's desire to implement it will just come from like that the daily habits, because success is a plan is there. And truth be told, like Psycho-Cybernetics breaks all this down, and like that book is that's only one book. But even that can just create the shift. Like, so the question would be, who's willing to read one book?
Yeah, I mean, you would think most people would be willing to, but here's the thing, right? There's a lot of people who say they want to do stuff, but they're never willing to put in the work, right? You hear this all the time, right? They say, listen, I want this. I want to make $1 million. I want freedom. I want this. I want that. Listen, at the end of the day, you got to do the work. You got to show up every day. You might have to wake up at 6 o'clock. You might have to go to bed at 12 o'clock. You might have to cut some stuff down. You might have to stop drinking. You might have to stop going out on the weekend. You might have to spend less money. You might have to not go out for dinner as much. There's a lot of things you got to give up to get there. And you got to be willing to do it for a long period of time. You can't just do it for 6 months, 6 weeks, 6 days. It's got to be like 6 to 10 years of crushing it.
That's for sure. Doc, 1,000% agree.
That's really where it is, right? And it's all about that development, that constant improvement, constant learning, constant movement forward. So to kind of end this episode off here, because I like to keep it around 20 minutes the best we can, if people want to learn more about what Shamauri, you're doing, and Jordan, you guys together, and the business and the systems and the process and all the things that you're doing, what is the best way for them to reach you?
Oh man, sweetie, you want to take this one? Either way.
I mean, the best way, I have all forms of social media between Facebook, mostly LinkedIn and or even Instagram, but with all the different platforms. But I mean, LinkedIn, you can definitely contact me on that, and also through my email, which is growthlegacy@gmail.com. If anyone wants to reach out for more information on what we do with that as well, don't have any problem, talking with someone on the phone or video call or what have you.
Absolutely. And you all can reach me on LinkedIn as well, Jordan Amos Ellis. I have various IG accounts, primarily because I do social media marketing and advertising on the side for fun, for passion. So you can find me at Ecom Ellis, which is like that I just offer just free promotion and just free value, free advice. Like I don't need the money for that. I just love giving value. But also you can follow me on Unapologetic Athletics on Instagram as well. And for the summer, for anyone between the ages of 12 and 18 and the parents as well, like we're offering a free summer spreadsheet, 3 volumes, coming out on the 21st. It's going to run through the summer. It's for the youth athletics that Shamauri was talking about. We have the SAFE program, a summer athletic functional exercise program with clickable videos, sense and rep ranges, macronutrient, calculations and examples like templates and a guide sheet. So, and then honestly, just plugging in to my Instagram will connect you to my YouTube. So a person could always be plugged into the source of information. And that's the movement we're trying to have from the health perspective. But Jordan name is Ellis primarily. All the information is on there. Don't want to confuse anybody, but you can just go to LinkedIn and all my account information are going to be on that profile. But Dr. Carter, we thank you so much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you so much for your time, everybody. Really appreciate it. You heard this on the Prospecting Show. Really appreciate both of you on here, Jordan and Shamauri. Thank you for your time and your wisdom here around education and really kind of personal development and growth. Hopefully everybody enjoyed this episode and have an awesome rest of the day.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.